Hi, this is Scott Garibay. Hey, today I wanted to talk about Dungeons & Dragons at 5th edition and Monte Cook. So Monte Cook is a really interesting guy. He was really integral in actually creating Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, which is arguably the best tabletop role-playing game that's ever been created. I think that's very true. So he was really integral in that. So one of the things that's interesting is he is a historical figure in tabletop role-playing games. He was integral in creating the best one that was ever made. And then he did something, he made history for the second time in tabletop role-playing game when last year in 2013 he created the Numenera game. So the Numenera game is pretty interesting. It's a science fiction game that plays like a fantasy-based game. And there's like three character sources. There's a nano, a jack, and a glaive. Right, and these are your classic cleric. Actually, it's fighter, thief, fighter, thief, and and wizard. Right? Okay. So he really brought this to life, and it was really interesting the way he did this. Sorry. So it was really interesting the way he did this. Now, what was incredible about what he did on Kickstarter was he made $500,000, and that had never been done, not even remotely. And then he made even more money when he rolled that property into a video game. All right. So now what's really fascinating about Numenera is he left the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition team to work on Numenera. And actually, he left the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and when he left, he wouldn't really talk about why. And really, I think to this point, he still has not talked about why he left the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition team. So my point, the point of this video is, was Monte Cook right or wrong to leave the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition team, right? And the reason why is I feel like this is a fair question because, one, this guy is in the history of tabletop role-playing game. He is at the Gary Gygax level, maybe slightly below. Mike Merles, Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson, Monte Cook, these guys are the history, these are the pillars of the tabletop role-playing game community, right? So this is an important decision. Was he correct to quit the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition team, which could have been really blessed by his continued ideas, maybe bringing more stability, bringing some better ideas to it, or was he right to go off on his own and make a new historical record for what he created at Kickstarter? So it's a great question, and my answer is he was wrong, right? And here's why. So one, he made $500,000. That's huge. I get that. It's really, now actually a lot of that went into the production of the game. I would probably bet maybe 100, 200 grand went in that, and he probably cleared $200,000-$300,000 himself, right? Which is a huge payout for 1 year's work, right? Especially in a tabletop role-playing game. And I get that, right? But Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, in my opinion, is, it could be the last edition of Dungeons & Dragons. It could last 10 or 20 years. And I really think his stamp should have been on it, and I think he should have stayed with the team. I think he should have done it because it was the harder choice. And then two other issues is, what did he actually produce with Numenera? So I read Numenera cover to cover. It's a fantastic game. It's really good from the writing perspective and from the ideas perspective. What's sad is it is junk from the art perspective. It just, like, the art is it's one guy, right? And honestly, the guy's not a bad artist. Okay, he's a good artist, right? He's a good artist. Problem is, you have a good artist with a great mind. Monte Cook, this guy is he is Michael Jordan of tabletop role-playing games, game design, ideas, and the game looks uneven. It really looks uneven. So when you look at the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Player's Handbook, which we're starting to see right now, you have top-level minds doing the game design, and you have top-level team, not just one guy doing the art, right? So, and that to me is really critical. Like, art is a huge part of these tabletop role-playing games, and be dismissive of that and not have an entire team working on it and think that you created something significant is just. And if you look at Numenera, it's a niche game. It's not burning up the charts. Fate Edition is way past it. Fate Accelerated Edition, Fate Core is way past it. Dungeon World is way past it. There's just not a lot of hype around Numenera, right? And so, honestly, I really think, even though he made him $500,000, he made a great game. I really think the entire role-playing game community would have been blessed more if he had stayed on the team, done the hard work, continued working on relationships, working on with people who are doing a historical deed in the tabletop role-playing game community. I think it's really critical that he should have stayed, and I actually think it was a mistake for him to break off from the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition team. And honestly, I would read a book on this topic, on why he left, right? And I would really like him to be open and honest and start talking about it, because, you know, there's a lot of guys like us who care about it. So so I would really like to hear more about it. So that's my take. I'm really interested in what anybody else has to say about it. And honestly, I love D&D 5th edition. I think they did a fantastic job, but I can't help but think that this would be a stronger game if Monte Cook had stayed. And it's just my take. Thanks a lot. Hey, have a great day. Take care, everybody.